So yesterday was the premiere of The Last of Us Season 2, and I gotta say, it was a pretty solid episode. I think it introduced us to where the characters are now, which is 5 years later after the events of the first season, and they really are kind of picking up where they left off, at least developmentally, emotionally. I feel like the time jump is weird because 5 years have passed, but I don't feel like the characters have evolved as much in those 5 years. I feel like they've relatively stayed pretty consistent, so it kind of feels like we're picking up where we left off. The only real noticeable difference is that Joel is a lot grayer. Overall, I like this episode. It had the scares, it had the world building, the character development, but I do think that I'm more excited about where the show is going to go from here than the actual episode itself. One of the interesting things about this episode is that we are still kind of developing Ellie and Joel's relationship. Joel in season 1 saved Ellie but lied to her at the end, and you pick up here with him swearing that he told her everything. And you see that it kind of takes him 5 years to realize that, hey, maybe that kind of caused a rift in our relationship. That's weird. And it's such girl dad behavior, but you know what, Joel, we forgive you. His character does feel the most different out of everyone because you can tell that the time really has caught up to him. In the first season, he was very rough, ready to rumble, and you were kind of intimidated by him. And in this one, he has more of a maturity to him. He is, not, you can tell that some of the testosterone has kind of gone down in him, and he's found more love in his life, which is great. And I do think that is really realistic with how men have aged. I think it's something that media doesn't always depict. They always portray men as being relatively the same throughout their entire course of their lives. But I've noticed it in the men in my life who, as they get older, they change. They become a little bit more open, and some of that like toxic masculinity kind of dies down with age, and I think that that's something really beautifully portrayed in the show so far. Also, just shout out Joel and therapy with Catherine O'Hara. I mean, Catherine O'Hara, even if she hated my guts, she would be my go-to therapist. In fact, I think it's funny how that scene really just kind of played into everyone's worst fear, that their therapists actually hate them, which I think we've all thought of for those who go to therapy at least once, right? In this case, she actually does, because Joel killed her husband, and even though she understood why, she still hated his guts. But I do think Catherine O'Hara was able to play that as a tool to help Joel. It very much was like, this is the darkest part, the darkest thoughts I have about you. I'm sharing them. Now you can feel free to open up a little bit more. Tell me what happened between you and Ellie. Of course, Joel being a man, he can't open up, but I do like that dynamic, and I want to see more of that. And then I do think it's interesting to balance Joel's change with Ellie's change, because I do think she's gotten more aggressive and a little more abrasive. And I do think only Bella Ramsey could have pulled this off. They are amazing in this role, and I really do think that they're able to capture that edge and that angst, and without alienating people watching them from the outside. The balance just right for us to still root for the character. I also really love Ellie and Dina's relationship. I'm just going to throw this out right now. I don't know anything about The Last of Us Part 2, the game. I have no frame of reference. I am strictly coming into this as a fan of the show. And I really like Ellie and Dina's relationship. I don't know where it's going to go from here, but it's really sweet story. And I do think that Isabella Merced, she is so good in this role. Like, as soon as she came on screen, there was just like something so alluring and charismatic about her that she just kind of, I'm in for whatever ride this is going to be on. I do think that their friendship turning into something more is it's done very well in this first episode. The fact that this is the first episode we've seen them together, and you're able to establish who they are individually, but also establish their dynamic so quickly and so effectively, and move that into like a romantic subplot so quickly. I think that that's very well done. But the big thing, and the one thing about the games that I do know, is the character of Abby. I know she's a very controversial figure in the game. She's the villain of the second game. And I have an inkling of what she does. I don't have it confirmed, and nor do I want it confirmed, so please no spoilers for a video game. But you can kind of see what her motivations are right off the bat. And the fact that they got Caitlin Dever, I mean, it's going to be hard to root against her. I love Caitlin Dever so much. I have been a fan of her since Last Man Standing. That's right. It was because of her that I watched a show starring Tim Allen. That's how much I love her. And then from there, I've just seen her grow. Booksmart, and then Apple Cider Vinegar, Unbelievable. Like, she's just so incredibly talented, and I'm glad that she's getting like this big role. I'm worried for her and for what the fans of the game are going to react to her. But so far, I think she's doing a really great job. I think her motivations for hating Joel, while not super clear, are very emotionally charged, and she's able to portray that in a very human way. And so I'm very excited to see where her character goes and how she interacts with the rest of the cast. Yeah, those were my thoughts on the first episode of season 2 for The Last of Us. I'm really excited to see where this show goes. Please no spoilers for the game. I really kind of want to just go into this show blind for the most part. But if you have any thoughts on how the TV show is going, would love to hear those down below.